why do the Maximals have animal forms? In the Beast Wars cartoon, however, there was an exact reason on why the Transformers had animal forms. So in the beginning of the show, the Earth had a lot of raw energy on it. If a Transformer was exposed to that for a long period of time, he or she would succumb to its effects, and that could be lethal. So the Maximals and the Predacons have developed organic layers over their animal modes. So the individual chose an animal, and they would use that mode to scour out looking for resources. So the animal mode was meant to protect the Transformer. And that's kind of one of the most brilliant ways to incorporate the idea of Transformers turning into animals. I know the Dinobots and the Insecticons already existed, but the idea here was for the Transformers to turn into more organic-looking animals. That was pretty much the gimmick. But in Rise of the Beast, there's no real reason why the Maximals have these animal modes. They're kind of just there. And I know that I might tick off a lot of people who are a fan of the Maximals, but there's kind of no reason why we shouldn't even have them in this movie. They did not even explain much about the time travel element when Optimus Prime learned that Optimus Prime will do something in the space-time continuum. Was it a thing that the Maximals was there one time in their past? And as I mean in their past, I mean, have they once been on Earth before they settled on their Maximal planet? And did they go back in time? So here I'm going to speak on an issue. The people that are behind making this movie, this assumes that the audience will understand every single character of the Maximal faction. I believe plenty of Beast Wars fans are disappointed with how the Maximals are handled. If you're going to make a movie on introducing characters, you have to dedicate something to why they are the way they are. The origin, the beginning, their foundation. There are people who have not seen the Beast Wars cartoon, but those people going into this movie is a whole clean slate. So it seemed like the movie is expecting you to know something about the Beast Wars cartoon, especially on their elements. And one major element in the Beast Wars cartoon is the time travel. But the premise for the Beast Wars was that there's this Decepticon descendant, a Predacon named Megatron. He named himself after the original Megatron. He stole a golden disc, and this golden disc is a contingency plan if the Decepticons had lost the war. So Predacon Megatron is going to use the golden disc, go back in time when the Autobots and the Decepticons were dormant in the volcano. They would wake up in 1984. Predacon Megatron was going to kill Optimus Prime, thus giving victory to the Decepticons, which will render the Maximals non-existent in the future. Now looking at that, that is a pretty solid premise on starting the Beast Wars, and thus that will bring relevancy to the Maximals themselves as they try to defend their existence from being erased. They didn't fully know that at the time, but eventually it came down to Megatron initiating the plan on the Golden Disc. So this Golden Disc is the reason why they eventually landed on prehistoric Earth, and thus the Maximals and the Predacons have to take animal forms, thus giving them protection from the energy and radiation. In Rise of the Beast, it's not explained why the Maximals have these animal modes. There's no reason why they have Earth animal modes. The opening scene doesn't help, because we see them in their animal modes, and it's based off of Earth animals, and that was not explained. And that is kind of the problem. The reason why they are the way they are is not explained. Their point of origin should have been explored and explained, so the audience can understand why these characters transform into animals instead of vehicles. The last night execution of the Knights of Icon was just bad. Their presentation was so fragmented throughout the movie that I couldn't really grasp their true purpose. Now the Maximals were done better, but the reason why they were in the movie is not explained. What can be gathered at this point is they can time travel, and they are explorers and defenders of life. And why they take the form of beasts and why they are called the Maximals are not explained. Ultimately, they weren't properly introduced. Compared to the first live-action Transformers movie, in which Optimus Prime and the other Autobots explained who they were and who their enemy was. The movie was able to actually explain how the Autobots was supposed to be as Autobots, even though they might have particular contrasting views, like Ironhide distrusting humans. It's understandable, but Optimus Prime, as the leader, was able to advocate for humanity, and this empathy coming from the leader of the Autobots is what make the Autobots the Autobots. So the Autobots was properly introduced and explained in the first live-action Transformers movie. But Rise of the Beast did not make a full difference between the Autobots and the Maximals. And you could easily fix this by them being in their robot modes, and we could saw Ares in her robot mode. It doesn't really make sense being unexplained. They had to have time travel back in time. This had to be a thing in the future. They had to have knowledge of Earth before Unicron came and destroyed their home. Either they was on the planet, or they had studied up on the Earth and its inhabitants. A couple of pictures, a couple of videos, of course they could have that. They are an advanced race, but doing that will give some explanation on why we have the Maximals as they are. Optimus Primal said that the Maximals are dedicated to the expansion of life throughout the universe. They are willing to defend life no matter the cost. So them having animal forms is probably to show their expression to that dedication. Hey, if you look at it like that, that sounds pretty cool. What can be said is that the Autobots have experienced other life besides their own, that being on Earth. So in the future, their descendants will take on animal forms as alternate modes to express the first life that the Autobots as Cybertronians had encountered, Earth life, and thus that will fuel their dedication as Maximals to the expansion of life throughout the universe. So now the Maximals have become beacons of life. So what better way to express it than animals? That's one way to see it, and that sounds pretty awesome. It would be nice if the movie had confirmed on that, and that would brought more deeper meaning to the Maximals having these animal forms as alternate modes. Shoot, it could have been nice if each Maximal told why they chose the animal that they chose as an alternate mode. That would flesh out their characters. Because like I said, the movie is depending on people to kind of know Beast Wars already. But stuff like that could have given them more depth, and that could have added more personality to their ways as Maximals. Small stuff like that can just bring more life and meaning to these characters. That will give more reason to why these characters are there. Because why not, since Cheetah could be replaced by any other Maximal? Why should the audience have to figure this stuff out? First we have Apelynx. He was basically the character to showcase how dangerous the villain was. For him as a character is to be the one to pass the torch to Optimus Primal. The problem was that there was so little to really showcase of the character. He already got the same design of Optimus Primal, but with a few different features and a different voice. But ultimately, it can really be like the same character. Noble, selfless. It's very hard to distinguish them by character traits. There is nothing to really make this character as a solid prelude. He's just there to die. Then he died very quickly. It wasn't even a fight to showcase his power on why he was the leader of the Maximals before Primal. So Apelynx as a character was pretty much pointless. Optimus Primal didn't mention him again, or he didn't take anything that he had learned from him because there was nothing to really set anything up between the two characters. He serves some sort of purpose, so I'll rate him a C, a low C at best. Next we have Optimus Primal. Now Optimus Primal is the most fleshed out character of the Maximal cast. That isn't really saying much due to the cast being small and him being the leader, who was able to provide what the Maximals are and how they act. I think he properly reflected what the Maximals were supposed to be. This is a decent rendition of Optimus Primal. However, as a character, what he was going with in the movie was not finished properly. In the movie, Optimus Primal was given like a starting role with Apelynx. The problem with that whole beginning scene is setting up Optimus Primal, but at the end of the movie, Optimus Primal never had nothing to really conclude with. They just won a victory, but we never see how personal it was in defeating the Terrorcons and pushing back Unicron. And we never really saw how that really meant to him having that victory after what he had lost. To say at best, the character wasn't really finished. But this Optimus Primal was pretty alright, so I'll rate him as a high B. The next one we have is Airazor. One major positive is that she has some sort of purpose for the Maximals, to have some depth. There is some actual characterization. Michelle Yeoh as a voice actor was a bonus to the character. Airazor have enough of a character that when she perished, there was some actual way to be gained from that. There's enough characterization of Optimus Primal and Airazor so that the connection between the two will be able to be felt when she died by Primal's own hands, even though he didn't want to kill her. But the statement, no matter the cost, is something that he himself became in conflict with, because he had to kill his friend for the greater good. So with that, like I said, I rate Primal a high B, and I rate Airazor a solid B as well. You didn't get to see her in a robot mode, but I felt the character was complete. She served a more fitting purpose than Apelings. Definitely. The next two are easy. We have Rhinox and Cheetor, who have no characters at all. They have traits. That's all they have, but they do not have characters. Cheetor did speak. He's more level-headed and straightforward compared to his original counterpart. He transforms, he fights, there's nothing really to him as a character. Which sucks, because funny enough, if you was to put Mirage characterization on Cheetor, it would be pretty much accurate. In the Beast Wars cartoon, Cheetor had juvenile tendencies. So if you had those two personalities going back and forth, Mirage and Cheetor, that would have been something really interesting. There could have been a scene between Mirage and Cheetor acting buddy-buddy to each other, having a moment, and that will kind of irritate another character that is more level-headed, like Rhinox. Another Autobot or Maximo can grunt at the fact that there's two of the same character. That would have been cool, but it just didn't happen that way. So I will rate Cheetor a F. I'm sorry, but he fails as a character. It's pretty much like Michael Bay all over again, and I don't understand that. You bring these characters forth, but you don't do anything with them. So Cheetor fails as a character. And sadly, I'll have to say the same thing about Rhinox. It's even worse with him. He does not even speak at all. Nothing can actually be described about this character except that he is the muscle of the Maximals. That's so strange because the original Rhinox was also the smartest of the Maximals. But in Rise of the Beast, there is literally nothing to really describe about Rhinox except that he just does his duty as a Maximal. And for that, he fails as a character. He gets a lower F than Cheetor. It's really a blunder for those who are a fan of the original Rhinox character. And I understand not everything have to be like the original, it's an adaptation, but to some degree, you should make the character somewhat an homage to the original, but at least do something, because at that point, you can replace him with anyone. Beast Wars was not the first Transformers cartoon I watched, but to some degree, as a Transformers fan, sad utilization of a Transformers character that many people like is distasteful. Rhinox is a pretty good character, and to see him be utilized like this is just so disappointing. You must not have expectations when it comes to these Transformers movies, because not every character will be properly portrayed. I think the first Transformers movie and Bumblebee was the only two movies in which every Transformer at least had a depiction that was commendable. No character really lacked in the first Transformers movie and in Bumblebee. There needs to be a balance when handling the characters of these movies because people are looking forward to see these robots in action and how they deal with their situations. People are impressed on how that looks in real life, but you don't get that if you don't handle the characters like that correctly. With the right creative application, you will get applause. If you don't do it real, like making it sloppy or cheap or minimal, you're just going to get scorned and backlash. When you bring forth these characters, make sure the characters are well applied to the story. So I think this movie does not serve well as a Beast Wars movie. It doesn't even do anything special for the Beast Wars portion of the Transformers. This is Lights126 saying to all I want.